It was an ordinary Thursday at Sunrise Academy in Brookhaven, Washington, a day that promised nothing more than routine math lessons and the gentle hum of adolescent chatter. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered softly as students shuffled into their seats in room 204, their gazes half focused on smartphones, notebooks, and the clock ticking ever so slowly. Mr. Langdon, the well-known calculus teacher, stood at the front of the class with a stern expression and a reputation for his sharp tongue and relentless sarcasm. His lessons were methodical, and his expectations were as high as the ceilings in that old classroom, where worn-out maps of the world and faded inspirational quotes looked on like silent judges. On this particular afternoon, Mr. Langdon was in the midst of explaining a chain rule problem, a topic that already intimidated most of the students. The whiteboard was filled with dense equations and scribbles, a maze of numbers and letters that few felt confident navigating. As the lesson dragged on, a subtle murmur rippled through the room. The subdued rustle of paper and the occasional click of a pen created an unremarkable background noise, punctuated only by the sound of Mr. Langdon's marker scratching out yet another derivative on the board. Just as he was about to detail the next step in the problem, a soft squeak came from the hallway, a sound so faint it might have been attributed to a creaking door or even the wind. Mr. Langdon's eyes flickered towards the entrance, his gaze softening ever so slightly. In that same moment, a figure appeared in the doorway, Marcus Randall, the school janitor. Known around campus simply as Marcus, he was a man with gentle eyes and a quiet dignity, a man everyone assumed existed just to clean up after others and move about unnoticed, a background figure in a world driven by academic rigor and structured chaos. In a fleeting moment of misguided humor, Mr. Langdon pointed casually in Marcus's direction, as if to say, "Oh look, here comes the man who mops the floors." His remark was intended as a light joke, a jab delivered in a classroom used to his sarcastic tone. The students snickered awkwardly, their laughter a mixture of amusement and uncertainty about whether it was acceptable to laugh. The room's energy shifted imperceptibly, like the prelude to an unexpected storm. Marcus, with the same steady rhythm that he applied to his daily routine, sweeping halls, polishing windows, and ensuring every surface gleamed, stepped quietly into the room. His motion was deliberate, there was no haste, no showmanship in his stride. He moved with an air of calm determination, as if guided by an inner compass that always pointed him toward the right course of action. The janitor's uniform was familiar, a faded forest green shirt with a neatly stitched patch bearing his name, Randall. But today, his presence would soon reveal layers that no one had suspected. With a respectful nod and the quiet confidence of someone who had once navigated far more complex challenges than cleaning floors, Marcus walked over to the whiteboard. His eyes met those of Mr. Langdon, and for a brief moment, the usual condescension in the teacher's gaze faltered. "Do you mind?" Marcus asked softly, almost as if to acknowledge the invitation implicit in the teacher's sarcastic challenge. Mr. Langdon raised an eyebrow, a spark of curiosity mingling with the faintest hint of skepticism. "Be my guest," he said, his voice carrying that familiar mix of challenge and amusement. A few students exchanged glances, wondering if they were witnessing something extraordinary. Phones began to emerge from backpacks, secretly prepared to capture what was unfolding on the board. Marcus picked up a marker with a firm yet unassuming grip. His eyes lingered on the equation before him, not with hesitation, but with the concentrated intent of a master at work. The room quieted even further, as if the usual mundane murmur of student whispers and the tapping of keys was suspended in anticipation. With deliberate strokes, Marcus began writing on the whiteboard. Line after line, he dismantled the complex problem with an ease that belied the depth of his understanding. Each stroke of the marker was a testament to decades of untold knowledge, a silent narrative of a past filled with academic triumphs and intellectual pursuits. His handwriting was neat and unembellished, it carried no showboating flair, only clarity and conviction. As he worked, his mind appeared to dance through the intricacies of the problem, isolating inner functions, applying the chain rule with a calm precision that left the classroom awestruck. The transformation in the room was almost palpable. Where moments before there had been laughter and mild amusement at Marcus's entrance, a new gravity took hold, a respectful silence that seemed to acknowledge the rarity of witnessing brilliance in unexpected places. Students leaned forward in their seats, eyes wide with admiration and curiosity. Some scribbled notes furiously, trying to capture every nuance of the solution as if it were a secret formula to success. Others simply watched, their expressions a blend of incredulity and reverence. In that charged atmosphere, Mr. Langdon stood a few steps away, his face a study in conflicted emotions. For one brief, luminous moment, the usual authoritative pride that he wore like a uniform was replaced by something far more vulnerable, a silent acknowledgement of the undeniable talent unfolding before him. The whiteboard, now filled with a perfectly executed solution, gleamed like an emblem of hope and potential. Marcus took a step back, his eyes still fixed on the board, as if ensuring that every student could see the logic laid bare in its purest form. "That's one way to solve it," Marcus said softly, his voice carrying the wisdom of someone who had once been a student of life. There was no boastfulness in his tone, only an understated invitation to learn and to believe in one's own capacity. His words, though few, resonated deeply within each listener. A murmur of approval rippled through the classroom. It wasn't a raucous applause or a roar of cheers, but rather a collective, almost imperceptible exhale, a release of tension, of awe, and perhaps even of the recognition that sometimes, brilliance comes from the most unanticipated sources. In that moment, Marcus wasn't just the janitor, he was a reminder that passion and intelligence reside in every soul, regardless of the role they play in society. As Marcus slowly approached the door with the same modest dignity that had characterized his entire performance, the classroom lingered in reflective silence. The daily routine had been irrevocably altered by a demonstration of deep, personal knowledge and a gentle reminder that learning could be a shared, human experience. The expressions on the faces of the students, ranging from astonishment to newfound respect, spoke to a collective awakening. They had glimpsed something that transcended the mundane world of grades and classroom hierarchies. Mr. Langdon's expression, however, was more complex. His usual smirk had vanished, replaced by a tightening of the jaw and a thoughtful silence. Though his eyes betrayed a reluctance to yield, inside him stirred the seeds of introspection. He wondered, perhaps for the first time, whether the rigid boundaries he had always maintained between teacher and janitor might be limiting the true potential of learning within his classroom. The notion that education could be enriched by embracing every individual's unique story, regardless of their title, was a quiet revolution in his mind, a revolution that challenged the very fabric of his authority. In the wake of Marcus's departure, a strange afterglow persisted. Phones continued to record, capturing the transformed energy in the room, an energy imbued with hope, reverence, and the irresistible charm of unpolished brilliance. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the period, students lingered, reluctant to return to the mundane routine of subsequent classes. They exchanged whispers and meaningful glances, each silently acknowledging that they had witnessed the birth of something extraordinary, a moment that had etched itself into their memories forever. Before the final bell could fully signal the transition from class to hallway, Marcus paused at the threshold. His gaze swept across the room one last time, a quiet smile playing on his lips, a smile that spoke of unspoken stories and the fulfillment of a life's worth of silent achievements. Then, with an air of gentle resignation, he stepped back into the corridor, leaving the students and even Mr. Langdon to grapple with the profound impact of what had just transpired. In that quiet, transformative interval, the boundaries between roles had faded, and the essence of education, its capacity to inspire, to connect, and to empower, had been laid bare. The event was not merely an interruption to the routine, it was an awakening. An awakening to the possibility that, in a world rife with expectations and predetermined roles, true genius could still surprise us, quietly and powerfully, from the unlikeliest of places. What do you think this unexpected moment reveals about the true nature of talent and the limits we place on people based solely on their roles? After that transformative day in room 204, the hallways at Sunrise Academy buzzed with murmurs of admiration and disbelief. The video clip, imperfect yet poignant, began its slow but steady journey through social media. Within hours, snippets of the janitor's unexpected display of brilliance had crossed into not only the school but also the broader community, sparking discussions among teachers, students, and even local education authorities. In the following days, Lamar Dorsey found himself navigating a school transformed by his moment at the whiteboard. Students, once indifferent as they passed him by, now lingered in the corridors and clustered around the doorways of the maintenance closet where he habitually stored his cleaning supplies. They asked shy questions or simply offered smiles of admiration, a few even gathered impromptu, notebooks in hand, eager to learn a few tricks of the trade. Among these was a curious twinkle of hope in the eyes of those who had struggled silently with math, finally finding a relatable mentor in a man they had never expected to be capable of such mastery. The viral nature of the video stirred more than just youthful enthusiasm, it drew the attention of the school's administration. Principal Everett, known for his steady leadership, arranged a meeting with Lamar. In a modest, unassuming office where the walls were lined with history and hard-won achievements, Everett posed a simple yet life-altering question: "Lamar, do you have a background in education or engineering?" The answer came as a soft confession. Lamar admitted that once, he had been a proud engineering student, a valedictorian with a full scholarship from Purdue University. Life's cruel twists, however, had forced him to abandon that path in the face of personal tragedy and mounting responsibilities. His aspirations, buried under hardship, had given way to the necessity of survival. Yet, despite the years spent mopping floors and cleaning up after others, the spark of academic curiosity had never truly faded. As word spread and more educators began to observe the ripples of change in their students, tensions emerged. Mr. Langdon, the calculus teacher, wore a mask of reluctant admiration laced with an undercurrent of unease. In hushed conversations among faculty, some marveled at Lamar's innate ability to simplify the most complex concepts, others questioned if this unorthodox mentor was blurring the lines of professional roles. A particularly pointed discussion in a parent-teacher meeting brought these concerns into sharper focus, with the implications reaching even the highest levels of the district's leadership. Yet, for many, Lamar's influence was undeniable. Teachers like Miss Lin from the physics department recognized the transformative impact of his approach, how, with calm and thoughtful gestures, he turned daunting equations into engaging puzzles. Even Mr. Langdon found himself confronting his own assumptions about power and authority in education. The rigid divide between roles, a teacher versus a janitor, began to erode, giving rise to a more humble understanding of what it meant to truly inspire students. Amidst this evolving backdrop, Principal Everett extended an invitation that would shape the future of the school's academic landscape. He proposed that Lamar lead an after-school tutoring program, a small, voluntary gathering that would harness his natural teaching ability and perhaps serve as a bridge between formal instruction and the genuine connection that students craved. The decision was not just about acknowledging hidden talent, it was also a profound statement that excellence could emerge from the most unexpected corners of the school. Though hesitant at first, Lamar eventually recognized that accepting this role was less about assuming a title and more about answering a deeper call, a call to reignite the very passion for learning that had once lit the corridors of his own youth. Carrying a small binder filled with personal notes, scribbled formulas, and memories of the past, Lamar began his new journey as an educator in his own right. Each after-school session became a quiet revolution. Students dismantled their fear of mathematics, piece by piece, as the janitor-turned-mentor showed them that the key to knowledge was never locked behind a title, but hidden in the heart of perseverance. How do you think an unconventional mentor like Lamar challenges traditional educational roles, and what impact can this have on students' attitudes toward learning? As the weeks turned into months, Lamar's after-school tutoring sessions blossomed into something far more significant than anyone had anticipated. The small circle of students, once an impromptu gathering around a chalkboard in the library, steadily grew into a dedicated community of learners and thinkers. Their meetings were not merely about solving math problems, they became a forum for exploring ideas, rekindling self-confidence, and challenging the very notion that academic wisdom belonged only in the realm of officially designated experts. Every Tuesday and Thursday, the library would fill with the low hum of focused conversation and the soft scratch of pencil on paper. Lamar, ever unassuming, sat not at the front like a traditional teacher but rather among the students. He encouraged dialogue, asked probing questions, and patiently listened to every curiosity, every tentative breakthrough that sparked in their eyes. His approach was conversational rather than didactic. Instead of dictating formulas and methods, he nudged them gently toward discovery. What do you think is the next step? Or, how might this relate to something you already know? These prompts planted the seeds of independent thinking and built a bridge between abstract mathematics and the student's daily experiences. His methods resonated deeply, especially with students who had once felt alienated in a rigid academic setting. For instance, Isaiah, a freshman who had battled self-doubt after struggling in algebra, began solving quadratic equations with a newfound calm. Similarly, Tasha, once terrified of numbers, now led mini-sessions for her peers and even her younger cousins, sharing insights gleaned from Lamar's unpretentious wisdom. Not all within the school greeted this shift with open arms. While many of Lamar's colleagues saw his influence as a breath of fresh air, a revival of passion in education, others found themselves unsettled. Mr. Langdon, whose own methods had once epitomized academic authority, began to experience subtle changes. His once rigid classroom demeanor softened ever so slightly, influenced by the undeniable success of Lamar's informal lessons. During a rare moment in the library, Mr. Langdon even asked if he might join the session. Sitting quietly beside Lamar, he observed the interactive discourse among the students. At that moment, the established boundaries between the teacher and the janitor blurred, leaving behind only the common goal of igniting curiosity and understanding. Faculty members like Miss Lin from physics openly acknowledged Lamar's gift. "It's more than just math," she remarked one afternoon, "it's about showing them that learning is a process, a journey that belongs to everyone." Other teachers, initially skeptical, began to adopt aspects of Lamar's approach in their own classrooms, quietly integrating his emphasis on dialogue and collaborative problem-solving. For Lamar, this growing influence stirred conflicting emotions. Each session reminded him of his once unfulfilled academic dreams and the life he might have led, a life that took a divergent path after personal tragedy redefined his priorities. In the quiet moments after tutoring, he would revisit a worn box under his bed, unfurling the faded Padusoy sweatshirt, the transcripts from his brighter past, and the photograph capturing a moment of youthful promise. These relics served as bittersweet mementos, tangible echoes of who he had been and subtle inspirations of who he still could be, despite the barriers life had imposed. In reflecting on these relics, Lamar began to understand that his journey, though not traditionally triumphant, bore its own form of victory. Each student's success, each moment of clarity sparked by his gentle guidance, was a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring nature of true knowledge. It wasn't about reclaiming lost honors or rejoining the academic elite, it was about making a meaningful difference, one question and one answer at a time. Outside the immediate school environment, word of Lamar's methods was gaining momentum. Local media outlets took interest in the story of the janitor who became an unexpected mentor. Community forums buzzed with discussions about the potential for unconventional approaches in education, while parents began voicing their appreciation for the transformative, humanistic touch that Lamar provided. Yet even as the accolades rolled in, Lamar maintained his characteristic humility. He was never one to seek spotlight. For him, teaching was an act of service, a quiet affirmation that sometimes, the most profound lessons in life come from the simplest acts of caring. Despite the growing attention, he continued to wear the faded uniform and work the same shifts, his eyes firmly set on the chalkboard, where every formula and every scribble rekindled the beauty of learning. What challenges might arise when unconventional teaching methods disrupt traditional educational structures, and how can educators and administrators balance innovation with established practices? As the autumn leaves began to fall and the school year pressed on, the initial excitement surrounding Lamar Dorsey's impromptu tutoring sessions gave way to an undercurrent of tension and introspection. The transformative impact of his lessons, once confined to the quiet corners of the library, was now rippling through every facet of the school. Parents, teachers, and even local education authorities started to question what this unexpected phenomenon meant for the traditional structures of learning. Rumors began circulating about the unorthodox tutoring sessions. Although many praised Lamar for his ability to demystify complex mathematical concepts, some parents raised concerns over whether it was appropriate for a janitor to assume the role of an educator. Anonymous emails and formal complaints trickled into the administration, prompting Principal Everett to organize a series of discreet meetings with the faculty. At one such meeting, Mr. Langdon, the once unassailable figure in the calculus classroom, hesitantly voiced a concern in front of his peers: "We must ensure that our students receive instruction from certified educators." While Lamar's approach is undeniably inspiring, it skirts the traditional lines of our educational framework. Despite the rising debates, a countervoice emerged from within the school community. Many students and progressive teachers insisted that true learning wasn't defined solely by credentials or titles. "He makes math accessible," one teacher remarked during a heated faculty discussion, "and he reminds us that passion often trumps formal qualifications." These contrasting opinions reflected a deeper rift, a clash between established norms and a burgeoning belief in the value of lived experience and innate talent. Caught in the middle of this ideological struggle, Lamar felt both the weight and the wonder of his newfound influence. Late one chilly afternoon, after finishing a tutoring session that had left students scribbling away with fervor, Lamar found a quiet moment in the empty halls. He stood before a dusty classroom window and gazed out at the encroaching dusk, his mind echoing with memories of a past filled with academic promise. The faded Purdue sweatshirt, the worn transcripts, and the old photograph, each artifact was a poignant reminder of who he once was and the unexpected turns that had led him here. In those reflective minutes, Lamar grappled with the bittersweet realization that while he had sacrificed many personal dreams to sustain his family, the spark of knowledge inside him had never truly dimmed. The question now loomed large: could he continue to nurture this gift without disrupting an education system so firmly entrenched in convention? The uncertainty was palpable, yet so was his resolve. He recognized that every student he inspired was a testament to his undiminished capacity, a quiet proof that learning was not limited by job titles. Across campus, the palpable divide between the traditional and the unconventional began to soften in unexpected ways. Mr. Langdon, who had once regarded Lamar's interventions with a mix of skepticism and wounded pride, gradually started attending the after-school sessions, not as a supervisor, but as a curious learner. During one particular session, after meticulously reviewing a challenging problem alongside Lamar, Mr. Langdon's voice broke the silence with a rare note of humility. "I used to believe that teaching was about control, about wielding authority from behind a desk. But today, you've reminded me that true education is about connection, about sharing the journey of discovery." The remark, though quiet, resonated deeply with both students and fellow teachers, hinting at a slow yet meaningful transformation in the way authority and expertise were perceived. As discussions deepened and minds shifted, the initial controversy began to yield a more balanced narrative. The focus was gradually redirected from questioning Lamar's qualifications to celebrating the underlying message, an affirmation that excellence can come from the most unexpected places, and that education, at its core, is about igniting curiosity and empowering individuals to realize their potential. How might institutions adapt when an unconventional source of inspiration challenges long-held beliefs, and what can be learned from the tension between tradition and innovation? In the final stretch of a transformative school year, the reverberations of Lamar's unconventional teaching had finally begun to harmonize with the traditional rhythms of Sunrise Academy. The intense debates and private conversations about credentials and authority had softened into a broader understanding that inspiration could be as potent a force as any formal qualification. At the start of spring, Principal Everett convened a school-wide assembly that aimed to celebrate the very spirit of innovation and collaboration that had quietly redefined the school's culture. In a measured, sincere tone, he recounted the journey, from the moment of that unforgettable whiteboard demonstration to the growing impact of Lamar's after-school tutoring sessions. With genuine admiration, he announced that Lamar would be given a formal role as a community learning facilitator. The title was modest, yet it carried the weight of acknowledgement and respect for the extraordinary contribution of someone who had always been seen merely as a background figure. The announcement was met with applause that rippled through the auditorium. Students cheered not just for Lamar's brilliance, but for the validation that real talent can flourish regardless of where one starts. Even Mr. Langdon, whose initial uncertainty had gradually given way to mutual respect, nodded in affirmation as he watched the transformation of both a man and an institution. Bridging the gap between worlds. Following the assembly, the corridors of Sunrise Academy seemed to glow with a renewed sense of unity. The once stark lines between teachers, staff, and students blurred as informal conversations about math, life, and passion for learning began to take place in every corner of the school. Lamar continued hosting his sessions, now bolstered by district support, and his humble gatherings evolved into vibrant communities of inquiry and discussion. He still wore the faded uniform and carried the same worn binder filled with handwritten formulas, yet now he also carried something far more precious, a belief that every individual could share wisdom, inspire change, and remind others that knowledge transcends conventional roles. His tutoring sessions became a living testament to the idea that education isn't confined to a classroom or defined by a title, it's woven into the very fabric of shared human experience. As the academic year drew to a close, the impact of Lamar's journey was evident not only in improved grades and burgeoning self-confidence among students but also in the quiet moments of reflection shared by faculty. Mr. Langdon admitted to a group of colleagues that his own teaching methods had evolved. "I've learned," he confided during a late afternoon chat in the teacher's lounge, "that sometimes stepping aside to let someone else shine is the best way to learn and grow ourselves." For Lamar, the honor was deeply personal. One chilly evening, after finishing a session that had left students animatedly discussing the intricacies of calculus and the broader marvels of logic, he sat quietly in his modest apartment. With a gentle smile, he unpacked the memorabilia hidden in an old cardboard box, the faded sweatshirt, the yellowed transcripts, and that cherished photograph of his orientation day. Each item whispered of dreams once paused and of a journey that had forged meaning from hardship. In that reflective solitude, Lamar realized that his legacy wasn't just about changing minds academically, it was about kindling hope, fostering resilience, and proving that the spark of genuine passion can transform lives. By the time summer approached, the ripple effects of Lamar's contributions extended beyond the school gates. Parents, educators, and local community leaders recognized that innovation in education often arises when we dare to look beyond conventional boundaries. Though Lamar never sought glory or titles, his quiet revolution had redefined what it meant to be an educator, underscoring that sometimes the most impactful lessons are taught not from textbooks, but from the heart. In the end, the story of Lamar Dorsey served as a powerful reminder: every individual, no matter the role they occupy in society, carries a reservoir of wisdom and experience waiting to be shared. His journey showed that the truest measure of success isn't in accolades or formal designations, but in the countless lives touched by the gentle art of inspiring others to find the answers already hidden within themselves. What lasting changes might emerge in an educational system when every member is valued for their unique experiences and insights, regardless of their official role? As our story comes to a close, let this be a gentle reminder that every single one of us carries within a spark of untold brilliance, no matter our role in life. Lamar Dorsey's journey teaches us that the true value of knowledge is not measured by titles or accolades, but by the love, passion, and dedication we share with each other. In a world that often praises the loudest voices, it is the quiet, humble souls who sometimes make the deepest impact. May you carry this truth with you: look beyond the surface, and you will find that extraordinary wisdom resides in the most unexpected places. Allow yourself to be inspired by the simple acts of kindness and determination that remind us how much we matter to one another. Let us open our hearts and minds, cherishing each small moment of learning, connection, and growth. Thank you for journeying with us through Lamar's transformative story. If his spirit of determination and gentle brilliance touched you in any way, show your love and support. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories that remind us all that sometimes, the greatest teachers are found in the most unassuming of places.